My dear friends, today I want to speak with you about one of the most sacred, powerful, and sometimes most complicated bonds in all of human life: the relationship between parents and children. This relationship is the very foundation of society, the first school where a human being learns love, learns discipline, learns trust, and learns who they are in the eyes of another. From the moment a child is born, something extraordinary happens. A tiny infant who cannot speak, who cannot walk, who cannot even feed themselves, suddenly changes the life of the parents forever. The mother and father hold this child in their arms and realize, my life is no longer only my own. Every choice I make, every action I take, will now shape the destiny of another human soul. This is not just biology. This is holiness. But let us not romanticize it too quickly. Parenting is not only joy and laughter. It is sleepless nights. It is endless worries. It is sacrifices no one else sees. And being a child is not only receiving love and protection. It is also learning obedience, respect, and gratitude. Lessons that are not always easy, especially in a world that constantly pushes the young to rebel, to resist authority, to seek independence before maturity. And yet, it is precisely within this tension, between authority and freedom, between guidance and independence, that the beauty of the parent-child relationship shines. A parent's role is not to dominate a child, nor to indulge every desire. It is to guide, to nurture, to discipline with love, and above all, to prepare the child to stand one day on their own 2 feet. And a child's role is not to idolize parents as perfect, nor to reject them as irrelevant, but to honor them, to learn from them, and to recognize the sacrifice that lies beneath even imperfect parenting. Friends, let me be clear. The parent-child relationship is not static. It changes with time. A toddler clings, a teenager resists, an adult child redefines the relationship. And through it all, parents must learn the art of letting go even as they hold on, and children must learn the art of honoring even when they disagree. That balance is not easy, but it is sacred. So tonight, as we begin this journey, I invite you to reflect. What kind of relationship do you have with your parents? What kind of relationship do you have with your children? Is it built on trust, on respect, on honesty? Or is it weighed down by silence, misunderstanding, or resentment? Because if we wish to repair the world, if we wish to build a future of compassion and strength, it begins not in politics, not in business, not in technology. It begins in the home, between parent and child. My dear friends, let us now turn to the sacred responsibilities that rest upon the shoulders of parents. To bring a child into the world is not just an act of nature, it is an act of destiny. A parent is not only the giver of life, but the shaper of a soul. And this is no small responsibility. A child does not enter the world with knowledge of right and wrong. A child does not enter the world understanding love, faith, or discipline. These must be taught, modeled, and lived before their eyes. And the first teachers, the first role models, are always the parents. It is easy to think of parenting as providing food, clothing, education, and shelter. Yes, these are necessary, but they are not sufficient. A child's deepest hunger is not for bread, but for love. Their greatest need is not a bigger house, but a safe home. Their greatest longing is not for toys or technology, but for time, presence, and attention. Too many parents today, in the rush of modern life, confuse providing with parenting. They work endlessly to give their children more things, while forgetting that what children crave most is them. A child would rather live in a small house full of laughter than in a mansion empty of love. And here is the truth. Children do not learn from what we say. They learn from what we do. You can lecture a child 1,000 times about honesty, but if you cheat, they will follow your actions, not your words. You can tell a child to be kind, but if they hear you speak with cruelty, they will imitate your tone. Parenting is not about speeches. It is about example. A father who treats his wife with respect raises a son who will one day respect women, and a daughter who will know her worth. A mother who shows patience in hardship teaches resilience that no textbook can ever offer. But let us also speak honestly. No parent is perfect. We all make mistakes. We lose our temper. We say words we regret. We fail to give enough attention. And yet, parenting is not about perfection. It is about presence. Children do not need flawless parents. They need faithful parents. They need to see you fall and rise again. They need to hear you apologize when you were wrong. They need to know that love does not vanish even when you fail. So I say to every parent listening tonight, your responsibility is not only to raise a successful child, but a good child. Not only an educated child, but a moral child. Not only a confident child, but a compassionate one. Because success without ethics is emptiness, knowledge without character is dangerous, and confidence without kindness is cruelty. The home is the first school, and the parents are the first teachers. If we fail here, no university, no institution, no government can fully repair the damage. But if we succeed here, the whole world benefits, because every child who grows up in love and guidance becomes an adult who brings love and guidance to others. My dear friends, when we speak about the responsibilities of children toward their parents, it is not merely about blind obedience or cultural tradition. It is about building character, preserving dignity, and preparing ourselves to one day lead families and communities of our own. These duties shape us just as much as they honor those who gave us life. Gratitude is not a small word. It is a habit, a discipline, and a sign of maturity. It is not enough to occasionally say, "Thank you." True gratitude means recognizing the small, ordinary gestures parents make: a meal, a ride, a late-night conversation, or even just their presence. A simple exercise can change the whole relationship. Once a week, call your mother or father and tell them 2 specific things you are grateful for. Gratitude is not just a feeling. It is an action that softens hearts and transforms resentment into appreciation. Listening is one of the greatest signs of respect a child can offer. And real listening is not passive. It requires full attention. Look your parents in the eye. Resist the temptation to interrupt and repeat back in your own words what you have heard. This shows you value not only their words, but their experience. A small act like putting your phone away while they speak is a powerful message that says, "You matter to me." Love must extend beyond words. Children must offer practical assistance, whether that means helping with groceries, taking them to a medical appointment, or handling a household chore without being asked. And when circumstances allow, financial support becomes part of this responsibility, contributing toward bills, medicines, or even a thoughtful gift is not charity. It is honor. The key is to give without humiliating, to support with dignity. So parents feel respected rather than dependent. As children mature, they crave independence, while parents naturally worry conflict is inevitable. But the way it is handled defines the relationship. Speak with respect. I love you and honor you. But there are decisions in my life that I must take responsibility for. This is not rebellion but growth. If your parents are wrong, disagree. Gently provide evidence and allow time for change. Respect does not mean silence. It means voicing truth with dignity. When children err, and they will, they must not hide behind pride, A simple, heartfelt, "I am sorry," restores broken trust, but apology must be followed by correction. Say, "I should not have spoken like that. Next time I will." This shows growth, maturity, and seriousness. Parents are more forgiving when they see change. One of the sacred duties of children is to carry the stories of the family, knowing the sacrifices of grandparents, the struggles of parents, the values of ancestors is not trivia, it is identity. Make time monthly to ask your parents or grandparents about their past record. Their stories, celebrate them. This not only honors them, but roots you in something larger than yourself. It is not enough to respect your parents. In private honor must extend into the public sphere. Speak about them with respect to friends, to teachers, to your own children. Do not expose their weaknesses or mistakes to the world in gatherings. Small gestures, offering your father a chair, introducing your mother with pride, communicate more love than words ever could. As parents grow older, children must be ready for new responsibilities. Medical care prescriptions, emergency contacts, and even legal matters such as wills and power of attorney. These conversations may feel uncomfortable, but they prevent confusion, conflict, and dishonor. Later, families should have meetings where roles are divided: who will manage health care, who will handle finances, who will coordinate in emergencies. Such preparation is not cold, it is the deepest form of love. Families are not perfect. Disagreements can grow into painful divisions. In such times, children must become peacemakers, not fuel for conflict. Listen to both sides, speak gently, and, when necessary, bring in a counselor, mediator, or spiritual guide. Your role is not to take sides, but to preserve unity. The maturity of children is measured by their ability to bring calm to chaos. Children do not only receive values from parents, they also transmit them to the future. When you teach your own children respect, generosity, honesty, and forgiveness, you are not only raising good people, you are honoring your parents by extending their influence into the future. Tell family stories at the dinner table, celebrate traditions, and let the next generation know where they came from. In this digital age, one careless word or social media post can bring shame. Children must never expose their parents. Private matters mock their weaknesses or humiliate them, whether in public or online. Privacy and dignity are sacred. Protect your parents. Honor as fiercely as you would protect your own. Children are also responsible for the spiritual well-being of their parents. Pray for them, accompany them in religious observances, ensure that holidays, traditions, and spiritual practices remain meaningful and inclusive. A blessing given sincerely by a child can bring immeasurable peace to a parent's heart. Great love is built not on dramatic moments, but on small, consistent acts. Send a message each morning, share a meal, weekly, dedicate time, monthly, celebrate. Yearly consistency is the rhythm that sustains love. Involve parents in your life. Decisions: marriage, career, home. Not because you must obey blindly, but because their voice deserves a place of honor. And so, my friends, the responsibilities of children are not burdens, but privileges. They are opportunities to grow, to express gratitude, and to become better human beings. Every act of respect to a parent is a gift to yourself, for it shapes your soul, it refines your character, and it secures blessings for generations to come. My dear friends, when we speak about the emotional bond between parents and children, we are no longer talking about duties and responsibilities alone. We are speaking about the very heartbeat of family life. This bond is not written in any contract. It is not enforced by any law. Yet it is the strongest force shaping who we are. From the very moment a child is born and placed in the arms of their parents, An invisible thread is tied a thread woven with love, sacrifice, and hope. And though invisible, it carries the power to define an entire lifetime. Parents give not only their time and labor, they give a piece of their soul every night. They spend awake with a crying child. Every day, they walk with worry for their teenager. Every prayer whispered for their grown-up son or daughter is proof that parenthood is not a role. It is a lifelong covenant. This covenant is built on emotion, and that emotion has the power to heal, or to wound, to nurture, or to neglect. Let us be honest, love is not always simple between parents and children. There are moments of anger, misunderstanding, and disappointment. Parents sometimes expect too much children, sometimes rebel too harshly. But beneath these storms lies an ocean of love, deep and steady. And when we remember that love, even our sharpest arguments can be softened with patience. The emotional bond is tested in different seasons of life in childhood. It is about safety. The child runs to the parent for comfort after a fall or a nightmare in adolescence. It is about identity. The child pushes back, questions, rules, seeks independence, yet deep inside still longs for assurance. In adulthood, it becomes about respect and companionship. The child no longer needs protection, but still needs blessing and guidance. Each season changes the form of love, but not its essence. A child who grows up feeling emotionally secure with parents carries a shield into the world. Rejection hurts less failure, feels less final, because the child knows there is always a home where love waits unconditional and unearned. This security becomes the foundation of confidence, ambition, and resilience. But the opposite is also true when the emotional connection is weak or broken. The wounds run deep. A child ignored by parents may spend a lifetime seeking approval. In others, a child harshly judged may struggle with shame. Even in success, a child abandoned emotionally may fear intimacy in every relationship. Thereafter, this is why nurturing love at home is not a luxury. It is survival. And what does this emotional bond look like in daily life? It looks like a father putting away his phone to listen to his daughter. It looks like a mother laughing with her son over something silly. It looks like a parent blessing their child before sleep. Even when they are tired, it looks like forgiveness. After harsh words and reassurance after failure, it is not grand speeches, but simple daily actions that plant deep roots in the soul. Let me tell you something. Children remember, not the lectures you gave, but the feelings you created. They may forget your words, but they will never forget how safe they felt in your embrace, how proud they saw you when they succeeded, how comforted they were when you wiped their tears. These memories become their compass, and when life challenges them, they return to those moments of love as their inner strength. So I say, the emotional bond between parent and child is sacred. It is not something to be taken for granted. It must be watered daily, with kindness, attention, forgiveness, and presence. For when this bond is strong, even in the darkest times the family stands like a fortress. And when this bond is weak, even in times of prosperity, there is emptiness. My friends, love is the root of morality, and the family is where that love is first experienced. If we nurture it carefully, we give the world not only strong children, but compassionate human beings. And in doing so, we fulfill one of the highest callings given to us by God. My dear friends, when we look beyond the walls of our homes and ask how the relationship between parents and children shapes society and spirituality, we realize that this bond is not private alone. It is the seed from which entire civilizations grow. A home filled with love, respect, and understanding becomes a small school of morality, a sacred sanctuary where values are first learned and practiced, and every child who walks out of that home carries those lessons into the wider world. Think about it. Societies do not fall apart because of economic problems or political disagreements. Alone, they collapse when families collapse, when respect between generations breaks, when children no longer see their parents as guides, and when parents no longer see their children as sacred trusts. The decay of family is the decay of society. But when homes are filled with love and duty, those homes produce citizens who are compassionate leaders who are just, and communities that are united. This is why religious traditions across the world place so much emphasis on honoring parents. The Bible does not simply say, "Respect your parents." It makes it a commandment with a promise, "Honor your father and mother, so that your days may be long upon the land." This is not just about individual blessing, it is about the endurance of nations. When children cherish their parents, they grow into adults who cherish community. When parents nurture their children with love, they raise souls capable of building peace instead of conflict. Spiritually, the parent-child bond mirrors our relationship with God. Parents give life, protect, provide discipline, and forgive just as God does for us. When a child honors parents, they learn the posture of humility, gratitude, and reverence that later translates into their relationship with the divine. This is why our spiritual traditions describe God in parental language. Father, Mother, Creator, because the very first image of authority and love we encounter as humans is in our parents, and that image becomes the foundation for how we see God. And so, if a parent is harsh, unloving, or absent, a child may grow to see God as distant, cold, or cruel. But if a parent is gentle, loving, and firm, a child is more likely to believe in a God of love and justice. In this way, the home becomes the first temple and the bond between parents and children. The first prayer, every act of kindness, every word of forgiveness, every hug, every moment of presence is not only human love, it is a reflection of divine love. But let us also be honest, society often tries to weaken this sacred bond. Modern culture encourages independence to the point of isolation. We see children consumed by technology, parents distracted by endless work, and both generations drifting apart. We call it progress, but is it really progress? If families grow lonelier and hearts colder? No, true progress is when modern achievements are balanced with timeless values, when technology connects rather than divides, when education strengthens rather than weakens family ties. The spiritual dimension of this relationship also teaches us about legacy. Parents do not live forever, but their values, their love, their prayers continue through their children. Every moral lesson, every tradition, every blessing handed down is a bridge across generations. When we remember our parents' sacrifices, when we tell our children the stories of their grandparents, when we carry forward their songs, their prayers, their wisdom, we are not only honoring them, we are weaving ourselves into a greater story, one that does not die with us, but continues. My friends, a strong society is not built by laws or armies alone. It is built by families rooted in love and respect. A strong faith is not kept alive by rituals alone, but by the living witness of parents and children walking in love together. If we want to heal a broken world, we must first heal the home. If we want to see God's presence in our nations, we must first nurture God's presence in our families. And if we want our children to become a blessing to the world, we must first be a blessing to them in our words, our actions, and our love. My dear friends, let us now speak openly about the challenges and struggles that arise between parents and children. For it would be dishonest to paint this relationship as always smooth and free of conflict. Life is complex, people are imperfect, and love is often tested by misunderstanding expectations and the pressures of the world. Yet it is precisely in these struggles that the true strength of the bond is revealed. One of the most common challenges is the gap between generations. Parents grow up in one world, children in another. What seems normal to parents may feel outdated to children, and what feels natural to children may appear threatening to parents. Technology, culture, fashion, even values shift across time, and the home becomes a place where these worlds collide. When parents try to control too tightly, children may rebel. When children reject too harshly, parents may feel disrespected. This is not a failure. It is a natural tension, but it must be handled with wisdom. Another challenge is communication. Parents sometimes believe they are listening when in truth they are only instructing children, often think they are speaking clearly, when in reality they are only venting without clarity. So words are exchanged, but hearts remain distant. True communication requires slowing down, listening without preparing a rebuttal, and expressing feelings, not accusations. Instead of saying, "You never understand me," a child can say, "I feel unseen when my opinions are dismissed," instead of saying, "You are ungrateful." A parent can say, "I feel hurt," when my efforts are not acknowledged. These simple shifts can transform arguments into conversations. Discipline, too, is a place of conflict. Some parents confuse discipline with punishment. Discipline comes from the word disciple, which means to teach, to guide. Punishment is often about power, but discipline is about growth. A parent who yells only teaches fear. A parent who guides teaches responsibility. Children must also see discipline not as rejection, but as love expressed in boundaries. When a parent says no, it is often because they see dangers the child cannot yet see. Financial struggles bring their own challenges. Parents may feel pressure to provide. Children may feel resentment when resources are limited. Comparison with other families often adds to this burden. Here, love must be louder than money. A child who sees their parents working hard learns resilience more than luxury. And a parent who explains honestly about limitations teaches humility more than wealth. There are also deep emotional wounds that can poison the bond: anger, harsh words, absence, neglect, or favoritism. All leave scars. Some children carry unspoken pain for years. Some parents carry silent guilt. But healing begins the moment truth is spoken in humility. A parent can say, "I was wrong. I should have been there. I failed you." And a child can say, "I forgive you. I want to rebuild trust." These words are heavy, but they are medicine. Silence keeps wounds infected, but confession opens the path to healing. One of the greatest difficulties is unmet expectations. Parents dream of children who follow certain careers or paths. Children may want something different. When these dreams collide, bitterness can grow, yet love requires releasing control. A parent must learn to bless, even when their child chooses a different road. And a child must learn to honor even when they cannot fulfill their parents. Exact vision, respect, is not agreement. It is the recognition that love is more important than control. Modern life also creates distance. Children leave home for education or work. Parents grow old, sometimes alone. Loneliness becomes a silent challenge. Parents wait for calls that never come. Children get lost in busyness and forget the gift of presence. But here, solutions are simple. A weekly phone call, a monthly visit, a small message each morning. Technology can either separate or connect. It depends on how we choose to use it. And let us not forget the challenge of pride. Both parents and children carry it. A parent may think, "I am older, I know better." A child may think, "I am grown, I need no guidance." But pride builds walls. Humility builds bridges. When each side admits, "I still need you," the relationship softens. So how do we face these challenges? We face them with patience, honesty, and forgiveness. We face them with the willingness to learn from each other. we face them with the courage to apologize and the strength to keep showing up. Love is not tested when things are easy. It is tested when things are hard. And every family that endures its struggles with grace becomes stronger than before. My friends, conflict in families is not a sign of failure. It is a sign of humanity. What matters is not whether storms come, but whether the house is built on love. If it is built on love, the storms may shake it, but they cannot destroy it. And if we respond with humility, patience, and forgiveness, every challenge can become a lesson, and every wound an opportunity for deeper connection. My dear friends, let us now imagine what happens when parents and children embrace their responsibilities with sincerity and nurture their bond with love, respect, and devotion. For when this relationship functions as it should, the results are not small or hidden. They ripple outward, transforming not only individuals, but entire communities and even generations. When parents raise their children with love, patience, and wisdom, those children grow into adults who are emotionally secure. They do not walk through life constantly seeking approval because they already know their worth. They carry confidence, but not arrogance, kindness, but not weakness, strength, but not cruelty. Such children become better friends, better spouses, better citizens, for they have learned in the home the language of love and the practice of morality. Likewise, when children honor their parents with gratitude and respect, they become adults who know how to honor teachers, leaders, colleagues, and eventually their own children. The home teaches the foundation of every other relationship. The humility a child shows to a father becomes the humility he shows to his boss or his mentor. The tenderness a daughter shows to her mother becomes the tenderness she shows to her own children. Respect in the family creates respect in society. There are also practical blessings. A family where love flows naturally is healthier. Stress and resentment weaken the body, but love and unity strengthen it. Medical studies even show that people who feel loved and supported live longer and face sickness with more resilience. What science confirms is what Scripture has always taught. Honor your father and mother, so that your days may be long. Love does not only bless the soul, it blesses the body. On the level of society, the impact is immeasurable. A generation that grows up in fractured homes often struggles with crime, addiction, and despair, but a generation raised in homes of love produces stability, honesty, and peace. Strong families reduce the burden on governments and institutions because children raised in love are less likely to break laws and more likely to build communities. Spiritually, the blessings are even greater when parents and children walk in harmony. They reflect the divine pattern of creation. God, who is both Father and Mother, of us all wants His children to live in love and honor, and when we practice this in our homes, we bring heaven closer to earth. Our prayers become more powerful. Our faith more alive, for the home becomes not just a shelter, but a sanctuary. Another fruit of strong parent-child relationships is the preservation of culture and tradition. Songs, prayers, stories, recipes, values, all of these flow from one generation to the next through love. When children are proud of their parents, they are proud of their heritage. When parents teach their children with joy, not with harshness, traditions are not a burden, but a treasure. And so the identity of a people survives across centuries. There is also the blessing of resilience. Families, bound by love, withstand storms, economic struggles, illnesses, social pressures. They may bend, but they do not break. A child who knows his parents stand behind him can face rejection without despair. A parent who knows their child honors them can endure aging without fear. This resilience is not found in wealth or success, but in love. And let us not forget the personal joy that flows from such relationships. A parent seeing their child succeed feels not envy, but pride. A child seeing their parents smile feels not burden, but blessing. The home becomes a place where laughter echoes more than arguments, where meals are shared not in silence, but in gratitude, where even in times of difficulty, hope remains. My friends, when parents and children both live out their roles fully, the home becomes the first school, the first church, the first community. It becomes the seed from which societies are healed and nations are blessed, and it becomes the living proof that love, when practiced faithfully, has the power to change the world. My dear friends, if you want to understand why the parent-child relationship matters more than almost anything else, look closely, and you will see it is a living, breathing sermon on the nature of God. It is a miniature theology taught at the kitchen table. The way a parent comforts a frightened child teaches what mercy looks like in practice. The way a parent sets a boundary and explains it lovingly teaches what justice looks like without cruelty. The home is not merely where we learn manners. It is where abstract words about divine attributes, compassion, patience, humility, forgiveness, faithfulness, are translated into human gestures that a child can touch, remember, and then imitate. In this sense, parenting is apprenticeship in the image of the divine. Parents act as God's hands in the life of a child long before a child can hear sermons or read sacred texts. Consider the phrase used by our tradition, that human beings are created in the image of God. That phrase is not poetry alone. It is a responsibility. Every time a parent gives dignity to a child, by listening, by refusing to shame, by recognizing a child's worth, the parent reflects that divine image back into the world. Conversely, when a child bows before an elder, when a son or daughter honors the life that brought them forth, they are practicing a form of worship. These simple exchanges, an attentive ear, a bedside blessing, a hand offered without judgment, are the small sacraments through which the sacred becomes visible. They teach children that holiness is not confined to ritual. It is lived in mercy, in bread shared, in a promise kept. There is also a powerful moral syllabus embedded in everyday parenting that no school can replicate. A parent who corrects a child with firmness and tenderness is teaching the difference between punishment that humiliates and discipline that cultivates responsibility. A parent who admits error and asks forgiveness models repentance. The child learns that moral growth is possible and that pride is not the ultimate virtue. When a parent forgives, the child learns that relationships are stronger than grudges, that human beings are more than their worst acts. This is theology in motion, the belief that people can change, the conviction that ethical life is a process, not a static state. Children formed by such examples grow up expecting repair, not despair. The spiritual implications of this mirror are also practical. Rituals practiced at home, a shared Sabbath meal, a blessing before sleep, a family moment of gratitude, are not empty formalities. They train a child's moral imagination. Repeating a blessing aloud teaches a child to name the source of gifts. Saying grace trains gratitude into muscle memory. Simple liturgies create an ethical vocabulary. Words like forgiveness, blessing, repair, and thank you cease to be heady concepts and become living habits. These rituals provide a scaffolding for conscience, a set of practices that help a child act rightly when reasoning alone is not enough. Parents also teach the theological rhythm of covenant. In the way a parent promises, returns, and remains present, a child learns what faithfulness looks like. The repeated reliability of a parent, showing up to soccer practice, answering a call, keeping a promise, forms the child's model of God's covenantal fidelity. Conversely, broken promises teach painful but crucial lessons about trust and the need for repair. When a parent then makes amends, the child learns the process of restoration. Thus, the family becomes a laboratory of covenant. Vows made, vows kept, vows restored. This is the most elemental theology of relationship. That commitment is how love survives. There are specific practices parents and children can adopt that make this mirror clear and constructive. Begin with a ritual of naming virtues aloud. Once a week, invite a child to point out an act of kindness they observed in the home and name the quality it expressed. Courage, truthfulness, generosity. Create a simple forgiveness ritual. When someone is hurt, pause the routine. Allow both voices to be heard. State the harm plainly. Ask for forgiveness and agree on one concrete action to prevent recurrence. Teach children to bless one another before parting. A short sentence of goodwill, so that departure becomes an opportunity to consecrate, not merely to leave. These practices transform theology into habit. Another practice is the transparency of conscience. Children should see parents reflect aloud about mistakes and intentions. A parent might say, "I was short with you today because I was tired. That was wrong. Tomorrow I will try to listen first." This is not weak confession, it is moral leadership. It teaches children that integrity involves truth-telling about ourselves and that moral authority grows from humility, not from feigned perfection. When children witness parents owning their interior life, they learn that inner work matters as much as outward compliance. The parent-child mirror also demands public responsibility. How families behave in community matters. When parents act with honesty at the workplace, when they show compassion to neighbors, when they participate in communal charity, children learn that moral life extends beyond the home. They learn that God's image is not confined to family, but is visible in social justice, in how we treat strangers, in how we balance private interest with public good. Parents therefore function as the first civic educators. By their conduct, they teach not only domestic virtues, but civic virtues. Finally, remember that this mirror works both ways. Children can be the conscience of parents. A child's straightforward question, "Why did you do that?" can awaken a parent to inconsistencies between sermon and life. When parents listen to that question with humility, they model for the child a posture of lifelong learning and moral responsiveness. This mutual shaping reminds us that the household is not a one-way lecture, but a two-way school where both generations teach and grow. That reciprocity is itself a theological lesson. The divine calls us to mutual formation, not unilateral authority. So what should you do tonight? Do one concrete thing that makes the mirror visible. Speak a short blessing to someone in your family. Admit one small error out loud and name how you will change. Share one story of your parents' sacrifice with your children and ask them what value it reveals. These are small acts, but they begin to stitch the sacred into everyday life. When parents and children live so intimately as moral teachers of one another, the world outside the home begins to learn what a people devoted to goodness looks like. Go home and be the face of God for your children. Let mercy be tangible in your hands and justice audible in your voice. Teach them not only with words, but with the consistent, imperfect, courageous practice of being human together. In doing so, you will not only raise upright children, you will cultivate a generation equipped to bring moral clarity, spiritual courage, and practical compassion into a troubled world.